What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the R.O.Hammer Company's Sales Cycle Podcast. This week, my co-host John Erickson and I sit down with Jonathan Sharp, mid-market account executive at SIGNiX, a leading provider of integrated digital signature and remote online notarization solutions. Jonathan brings a sharp perspective, pun intended, on selling into complex, compliance-heavy environments. We dive into what it takes to build trust with enterprise buyers, how to shorten the sales cycle in regulated spaces, and the evolving role of digital transformation in industries that have traditionally lagged behind. It's gonna be a good one. Grab a coffee and enjoy the conversation.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining. I have a special guest today, Jonathan Sharp, and as always, my co-host, Chris Walcher. Chris, kind of in the lobby of this episode, said that he had lots of questions prepared for Jonathan. So I think let's dig out the list, Chris. Rather than going through the boring, dry introductions, let's just hit it hard. Start with.
Let's just jump right. Do we get to? Is this permission to go rogue? Can
you
I
don't
go
need
rogue?
permission. Oh. All right. What do you got?
All right. So first, Jonathan, first, great to finally get to meet you face to face. I don't know if anybody has told you this to your face, but
behind my back, maybe? Go ahead.
Maybe. Well, yeah, actually behind your back, I talked to John Erickson about this. You are one heck of a sales agent, man.
I would agree.
Oh.
And let me tell you why. That our first interaction was you had reached out to me through LinkedIn with a video, which is very outside the box. I think that it's getting some traction in today's kind of digital media world. But at the time that you hit me with it, it was still kind of like, whoa, what is this? Did this guy just send me but there's a couple things that really stuck out about it and why I think that you are one heck of a sales agent. And the first is that obviously the nature of those video DMs is very specific. You were speaking directly to me. It was super unique. But here's what I like the most about it is that there was no call to action. Like there wasn't an impression that I was being sold to. It just felt very genuine. It felt very approachable. It was almost like you came curiosity versus an intent to like try and land a deal. And so my first question for you is, obviously you've been in the sales game for a long time. Like, how have you adapted and grown into that side, like outside of the box style thinking? Like, how did you, because it wasn't always like that. You were, phone book days. Now to sending these tremendously, how did you get there, man?
Well,
can I ask one question and make two comments before you dive in?
Oh, yeah.
Is sales agent the proper nomenclature? Is that, or is it salesperson?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they call us an account executive in software sales. If you go with that.
That's true.
I would just say I got a similar message from you, and it was very natural. The one thing I like about video, it is kind of a newer thing. Mm-hmm. Nice touch. What I liked about it, it seemed very natural, and it, not to be too out there, but you can sense energy, right? You have a positive thing going on. That's a big part of it. So yes, I agree with Chris.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, no, I am very curious and by nature. Yeah, I know that comes off. I'm like, oh, what is behind this door number one? I don't know. But I came across the idea from the guy that helped me transition from my previous role in a nonprofit organization into my sales role. So it was kind of sales adjacent for years. I was a fundraiser, and I found out I did some other things that were very much sales cycle-ish and in my previous role. But as I was transitioning, this was a big part of the program for the coach that I hired. And that's what he specifically works with, people going from nonprofit into the marketplace. So videos were a part of our job search. And that's how when we connect with people, we'd send videos and get more introductions that way and get more meetings. And it helped people see what it's like to experience you. So it just felt like a natural shift once I was in this role. It's like, that's how I want to connect with people. There's a guy that I follow on LinkedIn, Darren McKee. You might be familiar with him. All right.
Very.
Yeah, so he's very big on the videos. And my coach, career coach that I hired, he took Darren's course. So that's how he got into it and started training us on it. And then I started following Darren, and I'm like, oh, this makes total sense. I'm doing this. This is so much better than I enjoy calling, emailing, writing messages. That's fun, but the videos are my favorite for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a nice touch.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice touch.
I think that it takes, like, look, I've tried to roll out video to, like, even my sales army, and it takes a really special type of person to go back to, like, what John Erickson was saying is, like, your energy, man. Not anybody could just bust out the phone and, like, hey, what's up, Chris? Man, I've seen you all over LinkedIn, man. I just knew I had to, like, there was just something so electric.
Even better than that, though. It was like, hey, I'm on a lunch break. I'm just walking down the street, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I was like, looks like a nice day there.
No, but I mean, like, dude, that's not anybody could just bust out their mobile and then send a video message like that. And so I think that that's one of the stark things that stood out for me is like, shoot, I'm trying to do that myself. And so I think that, like, even just like your energy, your personality, you're obviously very outgoing.
I had to work with high school students and middle school students. Like I had to be able to get their attention. All right. So, you know, you just knew to bring it. So I'd be up in front of them a good bit. I think that probably contributed to being able to naturally transition to a video. I'm like, oh, there's no audience here except this camera. It's it feels like a pretty natural shift for me.
Well, that's great. Welcome to the R.O.Hammer Company's Sales Cycle Podcast. Jonathan, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah.
A little bit about your background.
I will.
Chris wanted to get that one out of the way, and I agree.
I had to.
It's
I got
nice
more. I'll sneak them in. I'll sneak them in as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Cool. This is my home, and I've lived here all of my life except for 10 months in Orlando towards the end of my time with Crew. So I got out of high school and in college started volunteering with Crew at the middle and high school division of the organization and just mentoring middle and high school students. And it was a blast. Loved it. Saw avenue to get involved as
Can you tell us what Crew is?
Staff. Crew is a worldwide organization. It's a large Christian organization. They've got probably, I don't know if it's like 15 or 20,000 staff worldwide, something like that. I can't remember where they are at this point, but probably 7,000 in the U.S. So it was started back in 1951 by a guy and his wife, Bill and Vanette Bright. There was a lot of organizations that got started in the 50s, and this was one of them. So it was, I just happened to be involved a little bit in high school and got to know some, and I had a buddy that was volunteering and said, hey, come help out. And so I showed up to be around and loved engaging and mentoring others. And so it was a pretty good step for me. So I spent, you know, including the time I volunteered, 20 years.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so it was a long time. And I really thrived being not just mentoring students, but really being woven into the fabric of the community where the schools that I was plugged into. Like I love to get in there and know the coaches, the teachers, the administration, the parents, the community leaders, and see who I could rally to help in different ways. You know, anytime there was a need, that I'd hear about it, I'd be like, I got you. And I would just rally people and we'd go take care of something for them. So whether that was painting the parking lot or funding the, school lunch program. So there was a wide range of ways that we were able to help. And I just, I loved being part of the school. The main school I ended at for most of my time was my alma mater, actually. So it was pretty special.
Yeah. I've had some exposure to that type of thing too. And you tend to get, you might not realize it while it's happening, but you tend to get more back than what you put in too. It's kind of a special realization 100%. When that day comes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually funny. I have a little bit of exposure to that also. When I was in middle school, I was really close ties with my church and the community. And in fact, it was through that program that I started playing drums. And then I went on to like actually be in bands and like recording studios and all that. But yeah, I remember it was one Wednesday and I would tap on my, get it done. And drummer couldn't make it. And one of the mentors or the guidance counselors were like, hey, Chris, you got ADD out the roof. I see you always tapping. Like, why don't you just sit down on this drum seat? We'll give it a shot. And it literally birthed like, okay, I'm a drummer now. So to John Erickson's point, you get so much more out of it than you end up putting into it, man.
For sure.
So awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, we want to hear a little bit about your current project and kind of pick your brain on some stuff, but you have a couple of other things going too. Dad Good? Tell us a little bit about that. And then I want to know a little bit more about, you mentioned career coach, is that the sales rep accelerator?
No, that was pre this job's. Yeah, I'll touch on Dad Good real quick because there was, I can't remember which founder of Dad Good first got in touch with me, but it was just like a group of dads that are getting together and that kind of aligned on values, and it was a Slack community, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's jump in here and see what's going. Now there's like 50 dads in there, and I'm like, what is happening? And, it looks fun. So honestly, right now it was just a fun way to put, hey, I'm a dad, and this is a big part of my life. So I've got 3 boys. Me and my wife have been married a little over 17 years. My oldest is 14. I got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and never a dull moment. So yeah, being a dad is a huge part of how I identify myself at this point in life. It's just like, I'm a dad. So I wanted to put that on there. Now, the sales rep accelerator. So this was just, yeah, I think since October, I've been a part of the Sales Rep Accelerator. So Justin J. Johnson is the guy that leads that. He was #1 at Salesforce in like 4 different roles, and then one of the top 40 CROs to watch, I think in 23. But he started his own coaching program, just passionate about helping other sales reps. He's got a great story, and I was excited to join up with him. I have just learned over the years, if you're going to grow in something fast, you got to get around somebody that's gone before you and who's good and who knows their stuff. There was a time when I was doing fundraising dinners with crew, and I didn't know for years that we had somebody that focused on that. That was like his main responsibility. And so when I finally hear about him, I call him, and he starts asking me questions about the dinner I had planned. And about 4 questions in, he's going, no, this is all wrong. Who put you up to this? This is a joke, isn't it? And I'm like, no. That was the start of a beautiful relationship. No, but he was great. Like he helped me see exactly what I needed to do. He had a playbook, and I had some people on the outside in my community pressuring me to do stuff the way it had always been done. He's like, listen, sorry, I've flown on thousands of flights. I've looked into the cockpit. I've talked to pilots. You don't want me flying the plane. I don't care how many dinners they've been to. I know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, yes, sir. And it just, it helps to have somebody that takes away the guesswork and the ambiguity, and somebody that can show up, look around, and go, no, this ain't going to work. This is what you got to do. And this, so that's what I was looking for when I stepped into the more official sales role. And that's when I was talking to his head of sales, Leslie, and I was like, hey, listen, I need somebody that's no nonsense. I don't care if they hurt my feelings. Tell me what I need to know. All right. And she's like, Justin's got you. And she was right. And it's been great. I went to a mastermind with them in February, met just tons of great folks. It's been a blast. So I am a huge fan of the Sales Rep Accelerator. Oh, I've got my hat. You want me to wear my hat? You're going to like it.
Do it. I love it.
Yes.
Sales Savage.
There you go.
So right now I'm like, this is more, it's more ambitious, or, I'm trying to become this.
Yeah, I like it. So you mentioned career coach. Can you tell us a little bit about that's super interesting too? And was that primarily to kind of transition from the fundraising role to a more sales focused role?
Yeah. And honestly, I wasn't positive what I was going to do after. I knew it was like my time with crew was coming to an end. It was just time to move on. And I was in a program that was really geared towards leadership development and opportunities and what might be next. Okay. And so the second half of it, I hardly slept. And it was like, what am I going to do? I've been doing this for 15 years. So I was talking to some others, and they put me in touch with this lady who was a headhunter who had been in the same program. She's like, hey, I know you need to talk to. There's this guy on LinkedIn. And I go to his LinkedIn, and it says, I help people in ministry find marketplace jobs without getting overlooked because of their experience. And I'm like, I need to talk to you.
Bingo.
Yeah. So talk about having the right LinkedIn headline. Todd Linder is his name. Huge fan of Todd's. I was texting with him yesterday, but I still send people to him. So yeah, he helped me narrow down and focus on what would be a best role for me. And I did a bunch of assessments. I tried thinking about what else I could do. I was thinking about just to be in a consultant type role on my own. Anyway, I tried a bunch of things, and then his program really helped me nail down sales.
I think he did a good job. I think
he did. It is a grueling process to figure all out. I mean, it's scientific, but it takes some work.
You would recommend it.
You benefit from it.
Sounds like.
Yes.
You would recommend it.
100%. I tell people, listen.
Let me dive into that a little bit deeper, in fact. All right. So 6 months ago on LinkedIn, you had posted like an old brainstorming note that you found in your phone. And I feel like this is kind of around that same time. And
yes,
dude, you said something that really messed me up. In fact, I have the quote here right
Oh
here.
no. Yeah,
You
it's going to mess me up all again, probably.
said, look, I'd like to spend more time with Ashley and the boys. I'd like to have the energy to play hard with them. They've had such a bummer dad for too long now. And to be fair, when I read that, like, I'm not an emotional guy, but I felt it right here. But I turned to the second page of that post and I just couldn't help but feel so inspired because I read through essentially what you did, and you can elaborate, is John, what he did was he created like every single type of position that could be in his wheelhouse, that couldn't be in his wheel, like nothing was off the table. And I think that he even ordered it in terms of category of risk. Like you did. No, I read the whole thing this morning. And so you posted that 6 months ago, but I know that that was just a very earlier brainstorming note that you probably stumbled across. And so to see you go through that like mental exercise to get to where you're at right now with like such job clarity, you're obviously killing it in what you're doing right now. Like just kind of talk to me about what that transition, what that journey, because dude, it takes like a mental gymnast to even be able to be that vulnerable with themselves. Like, dude, they've had a bummer dad for too long. Like, just even, I'm thinking about instances with my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old where, it hit me. And so, not to bring up old war stories, but like walk through what that transition and what that process was like for you, because I think it was incredible, man.
So which part specifically do you want me to dial into? Like how I got from that brainstorm to sales, or what it's been like on the backside of sales?
I mean, kind of like blend it all into one. Like, I just think that doing that type of exercise where you have to be vulnerable and authentic with only yourself, almost like journaling, is hard. Like that's, I don't do that type of stuff. But I was inspired after seeing that you had done that. And now seeing where you're at now, like, man, that's not easy to do,
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I think I learned that early on with my work with crew about digging into what's going on inside.
Yeah.
There was some fantastic training we got, and it's from a guy named Dr. Henry Cloud. And he's a Christian psychologist and executive coach, brilliant dude. Crew actually had him. They were like, "Hey, we need this in written form. Can you write a book?" He had never written a book before. He told me the story. I met him, but he said they had to hire a consultant to help him learn how to write a book. And he uses that process to write all his like 50 books now. But it really helped me think more about what's happening in here and paying attention to it. And so at that point, it's just part of what I do and introspective and trying to figure out, like, for me, I think, I don't know, we get one shot at life. So I'm always going, how can I improve? How can I grow? There's two sides to that, right? Like you can be really hard on yourself at times, but then other times, there's this growth mindset of, all right, well, let's figure this out. Like I know how I've grown in the past. Let me figure out how I'm going to grow here. And that's, so where I was when I wrote that, I think, is just knowing that for a long time, the work that I was doing, while I loved it in its entirety, there was a lot of the activity that I had to do that drained me more than I got to have time spending stuff that gave me energy. Yeah. So I did, one of the assessments I did was Working Genius, in my time at a cruise headquarters. And essentially I saw that I get a lot of energy from doing stuff on the front end of projects. And I can do the nitty gritty details and I can finish, like bring it to the end, but it sucks the life out of me. And I'm just like, get me out of the details.
Right.
So, I mean, I think I had one improvement project. I built this custom form with Jot form that had like 500 conditional logic rules. It was stupid. It was so long. And I can do the details, but I knew, but at that point I was like, nope, this isn't what I want to do full time. And so knowing that, then getting signed up with Todd and seeing more, okay, I like sales activity. I like the job search. That's fun. Yeah. I like trying to break into a company and get somebody's attention and have a conversation and interact. And then when we moved back to Chattanooga, it was cheaper for me to fly back to Orlando and drive my other car than tow it, go figure. Okay. But on the way back, I called, it was like a 9-hour drive and I was calling people the whole way, saying the same thing, telling them what we were doing. It was all about our donors to our organization. And I got home energized, like it went by like that. And I'm like, this was great. I'm going to like sales. I can get on the phone and I can call a ton of people talk about the exact same thing, but it's a different person, right? And you get to experience somebody differently. And I just love that. So I got to the place where I have found the type of activities that give me energy. And that's what I get to do in sales.
I love it.
So yeah,
I
so
That's
love it.
awesome, man.
probably 9 times out of 10 now, I'm coming home energized.
That's
And
awesome.
I love how this conversation has steered towards energy. It's one of those things where it's like God kind of puts in front of you maybe what you're thinking about or what you need almost. I've been talking about this energy thing quite often, quite frequently recently, particularly with Brian Wish, who's a friend of ours, a personal branding company named Arcbound. I agree with you. And one other thing, to take it a step further, I really truly honestly believe that people have the highest capacity for expertise in the things that they enjoy, like that give them that energy. Yeah.
Yep.
I
love
also
that.
would applaud you. I really like that you talked about, this is another thing I spent some headspace on, like the quickest path to growth is, I look back, all the things that I've learned over the course of my career. Some of them I figured out on my own, right? But looking back, someone who is currently in my shoes where I was, say, 10 years ago, I would be able to tell them and be like, no, avoid that pitfall, do this, right?
Yeah.
You know, like it's a shorter path. And
Yes.
the understanding, like, man, I have some amazing mentors in my life, and some of them are, you know, more personal relationships. Some of them are strictly professional, but the consultant slash mentor, man, what a special thing once you fully understand. It's really great. And it sounds like you've tapped into that. So very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been cool.
Maybe this is a good place to segue. You want to tell us a little bit about your current role?
Yeah.
Current company you're with?
Yeah, for sure. So, well, this is a cool story. So I did not apply for the job. The way I got this job was through my wife's mom's brother's wife's cousin's husband.
Say that again fast.
That's the fun way to say it. Essentially, it's my wife's aunt's cousin-in-law. But I think my mother-in-law thought he had a job. He just had some part-time work, but we had a great conversation. And he was like, I want to introduce you to a couple people. And ended up being one of them was a chief revenue officer at SIGNiX. And I get a meeting invitation from Jesse, and it's for an hour long. And I'm like, huh, okay. And then my contact, his name was Tom. It's Tom. He was like, I think he's got some jobs open. I was like, oh shoot, this is an interview, you know? So I'm like, I'm getting ready for this thing. So I prepared and got ready for it, and that went well. So then had to follow up the following Friday. And then he made me wait 18 days before he told me what was going to happen. He has some stuff he had to take care of. But the way I ultimately, I think, stood out to them was the videos I sent afterwards and following up with them, you know, so it went well. But SIGNiX is really cool because it's in Chattanooga. It's a software company. And I'm like, oh, this will be so great. You know, I wanted to do software sales, and being able to have something in Chattanooga, I just loved. So, and actually the CEO had a connection to my wife's dad's sister-in-law's family growing up. So, you know, wild.
Too.
Yeah, SIGNiX has been around since 2002. It's a digital signature and remote notarization platform. And digital signature is a little bit different than electronic signatures. I had no idea until I joined up, but way more robust as far as legal evidence. And we can embed the legal evidence of the signed document into the PDFs themselves. It's really cool. I'm just curious. So even in my interview, and they're showing me a demo of kind of the end product, I'm like, it was up on the screen. I stood, I'm like, wait, show me that again. You know, so I'm seeing like what all's involved, embedded into the document versus just straight up e-signature, which it's compliant, but it's just not near as robust. We're more geared towards the highly regulated industries.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we really stand out with is being able to have custom integrations with companies. And so that's really how SIGNiX started out, was more of an integrated white label partner. And so we had one of the public debt collection agencies reach out to us, and we helped them build this custom integration to be able to streamline the notarization of affidavits in the debt collection process. And some need to be signed, some need to be notarized also. But we just keep hearing how it's been such a headache for so long for companies, like, oh gosh, we got to sign so many. I was talking to Mark Naiman, who does CRS and the Debt Collection Symposium conferences, and he was like, dude, I remember having notaries coming over to my house on a Saturday and signing stuff for 6 hours. Where were y'all then? You know? And I'm like, yeah, it's a real pain point. And so we've been able to speed it up quite a bit. You know, generally what we hear now, I know there's the whole robo signing thing that companies have to worry about. But it was like, okay, this is after they approve the affidavits. And so what we're hearing generally is somewhere between, it takes companies 1 to 5 minutes per affidavit to print, sign, notarize, and then scan it back into their system. So the way that we're able to integrate it all in there, it's 6 seconds per affidavit is what we're averaging on our platform. So it's just, we can bulk load these things, or it can happen in this current software that they normally use, so it doesn't have to go out if they don't want it to. And so it's just, they can click through and knock these things out. They get routed back into their system where they needed to go. They can scale their teams a lot quicker like this. They can save quite a bit. Sometimes it speeds up their time to revenue pretty significantly, and can have a material impact on cash flow. So it's been fun talking to folks in the collection space, and I've had a blast. I had no idea when I joined SIGNiX that I would be talking to people in debt collection. Didn't know much about the industry, but it's been honestly a blast getting to know a lot of folks.
Yeah, and you guys have the compliance super dialed in too. Like, I know some of the stuff you're showing me, I learned about the state to state guidelines are different. Yep, which is a big part of it.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so some are using ours to do this in-person electronic notarization. Some do remote notarization with all these affidavits, but we can speed it up quite a bit. If generally, if people are doing over, we can do our off the shelf with less than 100 a month, but 100 a month and beyond using our integrated system is pretty slick. These things come preloaded with where the tags need to go or where signatures need to go. So all they have to do is just no more hand cramps, right, for your notaries and signers.
I go to my neighbor's house. Honestly, my neighbor's a notary. I work from home most of the time, so we have a few different offices we have staff who are notaries. But I go to my neighbor's house. He usually cooks good dinner too. So
and let's be honest, printer ink is expensive these days. So come on, give me a break,
Yeah. There's a lot of hard cost savings. Labor's a big deal, and scalability, I think, is what lands with a lot.
No, definitely.
Convenience too is another big factor, I'm sure.
Say again, John.
What's that?
I didn't hear what you said.
I said the convenience of it too.
Oh, sure.
Time saving, but just like you said, can you imagine spending 6 hours on a Saturday notarizing documents? That doesn't sound pleasurable. Not a lot of juice there. Right?
Not a lot of juice there. Well said.
Chris, what do you got? What's on Chris's
list?
What's
on my rogue docket? Well, to be fair, so I had a question teed up for you, Jonathan, about Darren McKee, but you already touched us. So I was like, man, I do good research. Like, I didn't even need to ask the questions. You're already jumping at it. But if I may, I do want to circle back just a little bit to Dadgood. I got to be honest. I learned today because I looked at your profile. I didn't even realize that you were part of Dadgood. And I joined Dadgood right from the jump. I have been super close with Warren and Dee and Charles, and I've had them on a couple of different interview adventures. How awesome is that community, dude?
Yeah.
Go for it. Yeah.
Well,
I want to hear from your side.
It feels untapped to me personally at this point. I'm still trying to get my mind around of how can I serve these other dads. A lot of them seem to have younger kids than me, I think, on average, which is fun. And I just love seeing kind of where young dads are these days and remembering what it was like to be that tired. So, yeah,
what I think is dope, and I think that it kind of brings us full circle, just going back to authenticity, is that let's call a spade a spade. There's still kind of a social bias against men, really speaking their true feelings, being sensitive, and really kind of breaking into your actual emotions. Sure. And so my biggest takeaway from that community is you have just a bunch of fathers that are there to support each other. They obviously love their kids. They're not ashamed to cross that barrier into sensitivity. I've posted some really sensitive stuff in the Slack channel, just hey man, I need advice. I'm struggling with my daughter trying to do XYZ. And I think that it became such a magical kind of getaway for me to, I'm not going to post that type of stuff on my regular timeline, right? But now I do have this secret quiet place with over 600 different dads that are you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's awesome, dude. We should do something with the Dadgood community. We got to start something up.
Yeah, would love to.
I like it. So, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, funny story with Darren McKee. the first person that ever sent him a video to ask questions about the program.
No way.
That he's like, dude, you get a discount. I'm like, well, let me make some sales first.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it. I like it. Let's talk a little bit about sales, like very great story. Tell us in your current role, like you don't have to give us the secret sauce by any means. We know you use video.
Yes.
But tell us a little bit about like a day in the life. Like what's your sales process? What tools are you using? Those types of things.
Yeah. So I block out my prospecting time early in my day, want to get right to it. And my sales coaches help me color code my calendar and I'm locked into it. So I basically have a spreadsheet of each day of the week and which accounts I'm going after each day of the week. And, not trying to overwhelm people, but just letting people know what's possible with our solution and just seeing if there could be a potential fit. So I'm emailing, calling if I have their numbers, and sending LinkedIn messages if I can. Not everybody's active on LinkedIn, obviously, but my favorite is to just interact with those that are posting on LinkedIn and just show them, hey, I'm a real person. I won't buy it. I won't be miserable to be around, but let's see if it's worth exploring more. And I'm trying to think if I don't think I've had a single negative reaction to a video. I mean, sometimes people are like, oh, no, you just missed it. You missed the opportunity. We just onboarded a vendor. I'm like, oh, it is what it is. But yeah, those have gone really well. And I end up, set the first meeting and just trying to learn a little bit more about their structure, because what I've uncovered is that in debt collection, people have so many different models for how they go about the business. And I'm trying to get my mind wrapped around each one and go, okay, wait. Y'all don't do it this way? And I'm like, no, we'd handle it. So
I think me and John are still trying to wrap our heads around how different our own industry is with respect to some of the players.
I'm like, I find a debt buyer phone number and I call it and I'm like, wait, this is the law firm I just called. How did this happen? Oh, okay, they have a debt buying arm. Got it. So just making sure the way that they're set up. I know some law firms are signing the affidavits and some aren't. And some debt collection agencies aren't debt buyers, and yet they are getting these assignment letters signed so that they can file suit, but then it's still the attorney at the firm that they're working with that signs it. They can notarize, so it's just,
Yep.
So I'm just always like, yeah, what is behind door number 2 this time? And it's just so that's really what kind of the early meetings are, how they're unfolding. It's just like, let me make sure I'm tuned into what's going on there. I know in general, we can help pretty tremendously with this process, but timing's got to be good. They need to have the volume that makes sense to them to really try to put some effort into this process. And after we kind of have that initial discovery meeting, like we're having some time to go through a more in-depth demo. So we'll bring on our CTO and he can show them exactly how we can batch load these and they can actually see how fast it goes through. Now I have to find some fun things to say while somebody's clicking through like 20 documents, but I want them to be able to see, hey, we can handle a large number of documents. But at the same time, it's like, he's going to be clicking for a few minutes here. Let me tell you about, this and that. So that's right. I'll start talking about dad good while we're notarizing. But so after, with demos, kind of what we're trying to see is I'm helping them go, if this is something you want to implement, when's that date? When would you like to go live with this? And sometimes it makes sense for like 6 weeks out. Sometimes they're like, this is more 3 months, or gosh, we can't touch this till even Q3. Getting a real good feel for where they are and mapping out, well, let's see what needs to happen so we can get to that. And of course, you've got like pricing proposals, business case, got to help them see all the right people involved to make that decision, and then be able to work through the agreement, get that finalized, which we're getting that finalized with another large one here shortly.
Nice.
So then like we're working with their teams, usually their IT teams help get the integration built out with I bring on our team and we make sure everything's lined up so that it's going to be a great implementation and they're going to love it, because we want huge fans of our product that are going to talk about it and mention us to others. So that's kind of the sales cycle for us. And that's been anywhere from 60 days to I think the longest one took maybe about 9 months or so.
Yeah, that's
very nice.
Cool.
When you're making a cold call, are you do you go with the PBO, the permission-based opener, or do you go right in for the kill? I mean, share at least one war secret with us.
So I made some today. Honestly, sometimes it depends on how I'm feeling.
Okay.
And what I'm doing, I'm kind of like A/B testing a little bit, not like
Shoot from the
where
hip, brother.
I'm marking it down. But no, but I kind of have a general, sometimes I just jump right in and say, here's what we're doing. Or I'll say, hey, this company is using our platform to speed up a very specific part of the legal debt collection process. Takes me 47 seconds to tell you how. You game to hear.
I like that.
You
I
know,
like that.
so there's a little bit of intrigue too. I'm like, come on, if I'm going to interrupt their day, let's make it a little bit interesting.
No, for sure.
How do you source your leads? Are you using a data vendor type tool?
Well, so, I'm really tuned into the RMAI members list and seeing like debt buyers there. And there's some fascinating stories behind some of the debt buyers that I've uncovered. But then as well as like debt collection law firms, there's some conference attendee lists that I've checked out to see them. And then ultimately I'm just using, I actually use Apollo as a free tool to easily get emails.
Oh, yeah.
We use HubSpot, so I get it into HubSpot that way and just kind of set them up in on my task list there. So I use ChatGPT a good bit. I'm continuing to hone in on my messaging and trying to see what's resonating and what's not. My templates keep changing each week. I'm like, I don't like this. I need to change this.
No, me too.
Yeah, so it's just kind of iterate, learn what really matters to the people that I'm talking to, and adjust accordingly.
Keep trying different stuff. Like one thing that I always preach is, especially with all the LinkedIn gurus who feel so strongly about one approach over another, it's like, dude, it can't be a one size fits all, man. Like, first of all, when you break it apart to the shell, is it an SMB? Is it an enterprise account? Is the phone number just somebody sitting at the reception desk who's a gatekeeper who maybe a humorous permission-based opener is really good for them? But now you're talking to like VP of revenue cycle management for some bigwig, like, maybe I do take a more strategic approach and go right in for the kill. So
Chris, what's your go-to permission-based opener? Like, what's your cream of the crop?
Man, my go-to permission-based opener, I haven't made a cold call in so long, I have to admit, but it would definitely be along.
You're not honing your chops? Staying
It would be on the humorous side. It would be something like, hey, John, this is Chris. I recognize I'm calling you out of the blue. This is a cold call, but it's a well-researched one. Do you have 30 seconds for me, or would you rather just throw your phone out the window? Boom. Not one time has anybody thrown their phone out the window, and so I got a pretty good batting average. I'm not gonna lie.
Very nice.
Jonathan, do you use like BombBomb or anything for email video delivery? Are you familiar with that product?
No, I'm not. You said BombBomb?
BombBomb.
It's a really cool tool.
It's dope. John,
it would
actually
just
told me, I just did a demo with them last week after you told me about them. BombBomb is dope, dude.
Yeah, so for your video here, let's see if we can. It does have some functionality that can replace like a MailChimp. So, yeah, let's see here. Not that this video is not sponsored by BombBomb yet, but
yeah, right. That was a good plug we just gave them.
Yeah. So I've actually gotten some BombBomb emails, and it's basically like your DM video, but the other cool thing that we've done with it is, like, let's say that you're calling a prospect and this is their website. You can place yourself in a bubble and talk over it, your video, be like, I love your company and your website. I'd like to sell you some notary now. As you can tell, my permission-based opening is not quite as fresh as Chris's. I need to work on that a bit, but
you're
I would
not
check
trying
this
to
one
throw
out.
your phone out the window, Mr. Erickson.
Are there any other tools that you're using that people wouldn't be aware of? I know you said Apollo for emails. It's a good one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I use LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, and HubSpot, and Apollo, and then some different AI tools. Sometimes I feel like ChatGPT works well for what I'm doing. Sometimes it's Grok. Sometimes it's Perplexity. Yeah, I've just used a handful of those. But I think I'm still trying to make sure that I have good messaging and I'm understanding the people that I'm calling well, and not just, mass sending stuff out where they're like, what is this about? So
what percentage of your sales would you say, like, how big of a piece is LinkedIn? Like, on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 100%, like how important is that to your strategy?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about meetings that I've set in a specific industry. Honestly, it's been about equal between email, phone, and LinkedIn.
Yeah, so a few different channels. That's interesting. Yeah, LinkedIn's a good tool. I mean, I think, well, we're having this conversation because we all met on
Right.
LinkedIn. Yeah, so that in itself is
That's right.
kind of unique.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is the long game, though. That's what I'm starting to realize is like you got to really kind of invest in some of your ICPs. Like, John, a lot of the stuff that you're doing where you're like frequent comment, frequent impressions, like interaction across, say, the duration of a month or 2 months, so that when you do go in for the kill, it's not cold at that point and you've already kind of like bridged that, hey, I'm a genuine real person. Like I'm not just trying to sell the shirt off you. Like I'm having fun engaging with your content. And I really feel like that's such a solid bridge into when you're like, hey man, just so you know, I do sell a cool thing that I would love to tell you about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So is the kind of the arms space, the deck collection space, kind of your primary stomping ground, or are there other verticals that you're looking at?
Yeah, there's other verticals that I sell to, and some of the leads that come in those. Mainly prospecting is just in the collection space. So not just with agencies, but original creditors as well, because they're handling some of the same type stuff. So yeah, but law firms, not just in debt collection, but other law firms, title industry, real estate, construction, those are some others that I handle. And I love having a good variety just because I love to learn. And I don't have to learn something useful. It's just sometimes just learning is interesting. So learning about these different companies and how they work, and more and more, as they keep coming in, I'm like, okay, no, I think I understand what's going on here. You tell me if I'm on or not. And, and as I start talking, like, okay, yes, very good, except for this one part, because everybody's a little different.
Yeah, I like that. I'm involved in a couple of different businesses too, but my primary business is in the accounts receivable management space, like Chris. And we've had this conversation too. One of the really, for people who are kind of outside of that world, the one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is exactly that. You get to see the inside of a lot of different businesses. And to me, that's very fascinating. It's educational to see the different ways that people run their businesses. And I mean, it's not, someone's building a car. We're not learning how to build a car, but you're seeing how the money flows. And that's a big piece of every business. So
sure.
It's very, very interesting.
Oh, government's another one that I sell into.
Okay.
So
longer sales cycle in that one, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure.
On a little bit, and you ain't going anywhere fast, baby. But when you get there,
yeah.
Is it like what level of government, like municipalities or like state governments, or
any and all? But mainly, it's been county governments that I've spoken with. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we do some government work as well. Chris, I think you're right. It's a longer sales cycle. There's necessary steps that have to be hoops that need to be jumped through for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan, are you doing anything on the trade show circuit? Anything like that? Booths?
Yeah, not yet. I don't know that we'll do booths, but we're going to go and just be a part and learn and soak it up and meet folks. So I was hoping to get to CRS in May, but timing just didn't work out for us. But I'm pretty sure we're going to go to the NCBA in October.
Are you considering doing the ACA?
When is the ACA conference?
I believe it's in July, I think.
Yeah, I think that it is. I was just
in
looking.
Louisville, right?
I just signed up to try and be a speaker at that one, actually.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and I'm hoping to get to the Mark Namen's one in September too, the symposium.
The symposium,
okay. I have not attended that one either. Very cool.
Are y'all going to the ACA in July? Chris, you said you're trying to speak.
I'm trying to, yeah. I mean, I'm going to put the pieces together for maybe just be a floater. I don't know, man. I used to set up booths, but I feel like you're so like stuck into where your booth is located. And if it's not in solid floor traffic, then you're kind of just watching the party skate by you. Lately, I've been just showing up as a floater. Trying to find any camera possible just to like jump in front of it and be loud. And so far that's been working pretty good for me. So that would be the game plan at this one in July.
Yeah, I think that the ACA is slightly different than like the RMAI too. It's mostly contingency based agencies. So it's a different type of show, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
But there would still be a
Um,
ton of your ICPs there, especially in the notary business. I mean, we're all kind of
yeah.
playing the same instrument, just with a different beat. So
Yeah, I think that for Jonathan's product for sure, but maybe I don't see Cedar Financial putting up a booth there.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
So we're just trying to hawk a bunch of side products that we're developing, on the side. So
Offshore, man.
you
Offshore.
already know, yeah.
Yeah.
We dabble in some software here and there, so try and get the word out on that side.
So we're getting close to the end here. Kind of wrap this up with a couple of final questions that we're kind of making these the staple questions of the R.O.Hammer Company's Sales Cycle podcast.
Nice.
What is your favorite sales book?
Yeah, favorite is tough. I haven't read a bunch, okay, because I've been going more for the live feedback and watching Justin's videos. But I really enjoyed Donald Miller's Story Brand book and a lot of lot of others of his. So the hero's journey is great. I really enjoy that. So that's probably my favorite. I also really love Jeb Blunt's Fanatical Prospecting. Just sitting on the desk when I took over in the spot at our headquarters, and I was like, "Oh, this is fascinating." I mean, he's that kind of, he lights my fire. It's like, anyway, he's just like, get after it, but he also gives you clarity about what to do. So he's that type of guy who says, "I know what I'm talking about. Go do it."
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to work.
I like that.
A bias towards action. That's what I need.
I like that.
I like it as well. That's great. All right. Got one more tough one for you. We'd like you to share your biggest sales win. And then Chris will share his.
Yeah. So with SIGNiX, we'd have to have this podcast next month because I think it's happening. It's happening now. Baby. Yeah. But I can go back to when I was with Crew. Actually, early on, when my wife and I took over as leaders of our local team, I reached out to this large foundation, and literally an article was written about the director saying he was the world's toughest donor. And look, I was young. I had no plan. I knew what I was trying to do, and I could see what it would make possible. So I could explain some things along those lines. But I was hungry and I was passionate. And for whatever reason, in the scenario, I was a little bold. And I ended up flipping the script a little bit in our meeting with his team and asking them some questions that I don't know that I was trying to put them in the hot seat, but I think they felt it. And I walked out of there thinking, I'm not getting any of this. I think I'd asked for 100,000, and I thought, this isn't happening. He calls me, and the way he phrased it on the phone was, we can do 50,000. Is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, I was freaking out. I thought that was
That's great.
The coolest thing.
How old are you?
27, probably.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's a fat win at 27. Are you kidding me?
I bought my first company when I was 28, and it was like a family connection. It was a soft lead or whatever, and it was very, very small. I had one part-time employee and a handful of clients, and I knew that I needed to drum up business or do something to achieve, probably to stay alive. So I used to go to trade shows like the ACA ones we're talking about, and I had, these Vistaprint business cards I created myself because I had no money, and I would be like, is that guy the owner? Who's the owner? And I'd go up to him and be like, my name is John. I know you're probably not ready to retire yet, but when you are, here's my business card. It's a little bold for a 28-year-old kid to be just out of the blue, hey, I'm John. I'd really like to buy your company when you're ready. And they're like, all right. And maybe 5 years later, we closed 4 deals in 1 year, all off of people just calling out of the blue, hey, you gave me your card 5 years ago. Are you still interested? I'm like, yeah. Wow. Of course, they all wanted to retire all at once, so, but we were able to get the financing together and make it happen. And so what is the Wayne Gretzky quote? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take or something. Yeah. So
I think Michael Scott said that, but
yeah, probably Wayne Gretzky too. Come on. I'm a huge Wayne Gretzky fan. I grew up in Minnesota, so hockey is a way of life. All right. We have a couple minutes, Chris. Now you got to tell us your favorite sales win, I guess.
Man, my favorite sales win, I'm going to go a little out of the box on this. So right before I got into the financial services sector, I was the head coach of a women's soccer team, a college soccer team. And so coaching a team was very much sales. I had to sell them on my strategy. I had to sell them on the positioning and the teamwork and the discipline. And my very last season coaching there, it was West Coast only. It was like West Coast Soccer Association Championships, and we brought it home. First place. It was tie game. We went into penalty kicks and we won in the PKs. So was there anything monetary attached to it? No. But that was one of my greatest sales wins, just with respect to I really wanted it. I was using every trick in the book to sell them on this end result, and we got there. And so that's my
really
biggest
cool.
sales win, man.
Love that.
You ever hear from any of your players?
Oh, of course.
That's awesome,
Dude,
man.
I'm like letters of recommendation for them for some of their pursuits. One of them works in finance, more like in the CPA world. And so every now and then we'll exchange some war stories. She'll ask me for advice at what happens like in our world. Of course, man. Those girls are my family for life.
That's a really neat experience. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much.
Yes,
you want to
lovely.
tell people how they can get a hold of you?
Yeah. Send me an email, jsharp@SIGNiX.com. That'd be easy. Yeah. Piece of cake.
Okay.
LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
No
find them
Find
on
me on
LinkedIn. Trust me. Go, give them a
Connect
follow.
with me on LinkedIn, and I
You'll
will
be in
send
for a
you
ride.
your own personal video,
That's right.
which
That's
I feel
right.
like you're going to be let down with at this point. But
I think that you should have more of your videos that you're sending be in like the, with your finger like that. It's very impressive.
That could be the tag.
Yeah, be like,
Could
listen
be.
here. Oh, that's great. Well, thanks for joining, man.
yeah, thanks for
We
inviting me.
do, side note, if you have any interest, we do another podcast that I think would be really fun to have you on. It's called Weekend Warriors. We do it like once a month or once every other month. And it's a group of, there's like no topic. We just
No
kind of hang
rhyme or
out.
reason.
Yeah, we've done a few of them and it's a lot of fun. And going
Love
back
to.
to we like your energy. So it'd be great to have you sometime.
Okay, I'll bring it.
Yeah. All
Hi,
right.
man.
Cool. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and your week.
That's right.
And
Back to the grind.
yeah, get to it.
That's right. All right,
All right,
Joe.
fellas.
Good to see you.